So we've been in Chicagoland now for several years, founded in 2003. We've got multiple outpatient clinics. We're in over 35 skilled facilities now, multiple hospitals. And as we've expanded and grown, we soon realized that we needed to stay customer-centered, patient-centered, and you couldn't really do that without a good platform. It is with that we started to realize that we needed something that we could connect wall to wall, all different aspects, not just an EMR. As you can see here, we put the patient at the center of our universe. We create patient 360 views, physician 360 views, payer 360. We track all the journeys that the patient may undergo with us. We collaborate internally to make sure that the patient has had the best experience, the outcome. We like to live within the what I call the Amazonification of healthcare paradigm, which is to do things better, faster, and cheaper. We've taken this from the front end, where we need to get to know the patient, acquire the patient into our system, all the way till we get the right analytics around it. We believe in getting the right information to the right person at the right time to make the right decisions. We've incorporated on this platform AI tools. We've got voice tools that we've been using with all the other data insights that we could potentially acquire for this. When we started this digital transformation journey, initially the patient dissatisfaction was high. Once we were able to improve our systems, we were able to increase the speed of patient care. Patient satisfaction went through the roof. When there's a lot of problems in your system, you land up with suboptimal clinical outcomes, lose money. Financial outcomes are bad for the patient and for the system. After this, we were able to decrease our costs, increase our culture of collaboration and data literacy across the organization, where the front desk all the way to revenue cycle can even connect with the patient, the referring physician, and or the physician and the caregivers taking care of the patient. We have grown over 40% since we've started this journey. The core platform that we have is Salesforce, whether it's Marketing Cloud, Health Cloud, connecting in with our EMRs, other tools, project management, all the way to Einstein Analytics. And this has allowed us to get through that point of what we call hyperscalability, so that we can actually do all of this better, faster, cheaper.
Awesome. Thanks for that introduction, Romy. And let's jump into a couple of questions here about your journey in terms of your innovation and digital transformation, but as well as some of the current issues that you've overcome as well. So let's start out with, kind of the baseline question here. Your history is much like any physician, where you spent a lot of time in organizations that are driven solely by an electronic health record and revenue cycle processes. Can you tell us a little bit about the problems that you recognized in that approach, and how Salesforce has helped you be able to solve some of those issues as you stood up Mimit?
Yeah, I'll be dating myself here, but I've done this for 30 plus years. I started with paper, and we just wrote stuff everywhere, the charts, we couldn't find anything, medication errors, all that stuff. And we were delighted when electronic records came on. So there you had the EMR, but now for 20, 30 years, we've been putting stuff in EMRs, but nothing comes out. And we digitize things. We even use the digital system for digitalization. But the real challenge was that we never got any actionable insights out of this. Also, there were many different systems, just all in silos. One didn't talk to the other. Forget outside your organization, you couldn't even do it inside. And as I was going through this, my passion is taking care of people. And as I started looking at this, I said, how do I fix this? And it wasn't too hard. You just had to look out in the rest of the world. Everybody's connecting with you on mobile devices. The information's flowing. You can click on a mobile app in Amazon and Costco's, and all the people serve you well. So why can't I do this for a patient? And that's when I started looking for systems, and I stumbled on Salesforce, and I adopted it as the platform. We have since then continued to grow on that, taking one problem at a time, solving it.
All right, thanks for that, Romy. I really appreciate your insight into the opportunities and advantages we have to expand beyond the EHR. Can you tell us a little bit more about specifically why you went with Salesforce as opposed to so many other point solutions out in the market? And can you give me a couple of examples in more detail about the problems that you were able to address as you adopted Salesforce?
Excellent. Yeah, sure. I know you and I have chatted about this in the past. And, when I started my journey, obviously Salesforce was a CRM, and we had looked at EMRs and different applications. One of the things, data was all over the place in different systems, whether it was scheduling, marketing, email, everything was a challenge. I've always been passionate about connecting with other human beings, and CRM seems the logical kind of tool for that, but didn't know enough about Salesforce. We'd used different CRMs in the past, but again, it was a mess. When I stumbled upon Salesforce and I started to look at it, the first thing I learned was one license. I have the same tool as a billion-dollar organization. The second was multi-tenancy, and then click no code. The third was this could be a platform. You just can add so many things on top of it. It was mobile. It was where I could now, without having to worry about hiring all these programmers, start solving problems. And I remember when we first started this, all I wanted to track was language and what was the ethnicity, because we had such a diverse population of patients. And the EMR company had told me to take 18 months and would show up in the next release. And when Salesforce, I did it on my handheld, literally within a few seconds. I was still using Salesforce Classic at that time. And I said, wow, this is the way to do this. And we started asking, what's the challenge? What's the frustration? So in terms of connecting with patients on the Salesforce platform, all our marketing automation, Pardot, Marketing Cloud, connecting with patients, everything's right there. We took it all the way to the other end where inventory management, et cetera. One tool at a time, we built it. The best thing we found was Salesforce has 3 upgrades every year. You stay best of practice in the industry, and we were able to obviously follow that, and now we're doing all kinds of sophisticated things on the platform.
That's awesome. We hear about challenges like that all the time across many of our customers, and there really is a challenge to get the data, the vast amounts of data that exist within our essential electronic health records that do a lot of amazing work for us, but leveraging that to really engage with our patients as customers, as people. And sometimes we forget that. We get in this old operating model and care delivery model that we're all very used to and comfortable with, and we're not ever comfortable to leave that zone, that bubble. But there's so many opportunities to really engage with people. And as Eric mentioned in the opening, there's opportunities to impact across the quadruple aim just by engaging effectively. So thanks for that, Romy. Let's jump to the next question. You've done a lot already. By many measures, you are wall-to-wall Salesforce in a lot of ways, and you've tackled a lot of big problems already. But what challenges are you looking to tackle next? I know you've talked about revenue cycle, inventory integration, and scalability in your acquisitions. Can you talk a little bit about some of those?
Yes. So one of the first things we wanted to do is make sure that when we acquired a practice, we can connect to just about any EMR if they had one. So those were the interoperability, the APIs between Salesforce and that platform. Second was there's so much data that's out there that is not core clinical, but absolutely essential to get them all into a data warehouse somewhere and then get the analytics and get it to the right people. So we have Einstein Analytics for that. We saw challenges with inventory. There is such a huge amount of waste. First, in actual products, we are very expensive. We have a $3,500 stent. You may land up putting 3 in one patient. Just that entire supply chain is a mess in the healthcare space. So we are taking on the Salesforce platform, tying it into where we can actually have good supply chain, on-time inventory, not have hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars worth of inventory sitting on the shelf. Managing that from the people perspective is an enormous waste of time. And instead of doing that, we are actually focusing on the patient. The other thing is, how do you know, is this cost effective or not? So as we take care of the patient, we have structured data on everything. So when I do a procedure or surgery, I'm marking every little bit of data that's needed, clinical, inventory, and obviously the economic outcomes of all of this. We are now able to tie all of that on the Salesforce platform and actually start having insights from this kind of analysis. So these are challenges. Every time a new treatment comes out, people say, does this work? Does it not work? Trials take months. We've been able to put it all together very rapidly, get the analytics, and actually it has to center on the patient. So from that point of view, those are the challenges going further. We've gotten past the minor operational thing, connecting with the patient, connecting with the referring doc. Yes, we're getting better every day. But these bigger challenges of, hey, do we have the right registry data? Do we have the answers to these large questions? That's where we are today.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's a problem that all organizations face as they grow. You mentioned scalable acquisitions. You have to inherit or replace legacy technology that is very expensive or very time consuming to handle, and pulling that new practice in with your organization. And you talked about it, and kind of hit the nail on the head there. How fast can we do it? How cheap can we do it? And can we do it better? And for you, it's just a matter of buying more licenses and either integrating their existing system or putting them on yours and migrating their data.
Yeah, we've taken it a step further, where we've actually taken all the learning and put it on Trailhead. So we have My Trailhead, we've taken modules and we put that. We've done guided workflow within Salesforce. So care coordinators are managing the care. So we chart the process of every real process for patient care. We then translate that into guided workflows in Salesforce. What that means is, patient had a surgery, somebody's got to dictate a report. The minute they say surgery complete, it takes that workflow and makes sure there's a task for the physician to complete it, the care coordinator to do something else, it got to go to coding, billing. So that translation into actual workflow, not just a flowchart sitting somewhere. Yeah. Now, how do I scale that to a large level? And when a physician comes on, he's just on his mobile device. He's doing something, a click, and now he knows what to do next. But more importantly is, when he's done, a care coordinator sitting somewhere else sees everything that's going on, can even connect with the patient, the referring MD, the rest of the care team. Scaling that anywhere else is unbelievably challenging. We are finding it easier with Salesforce, and that's scaling it now is our real challenge for us.
That's awesome. Well, we got time for maybe one or two more questions before we wrap up. And I want to focus on one of the more recent challenges that you overcame, and that was the fact that you stood up telehealth. You stood up a telehealth solution in a mere 3 days on the platform, maybe even a little bit faster. And you did that a little bit out of necessity because of the current COVID crisis. So can you tell me a little bit about what you did there? But in addition, how do you see virtual care in the future for your practice? Where do you see it going from here?
Sure. We've been for 2 or 3 years working with the e-visits kind of thing. How do we do this? Payment was an issue. Connecting was an issue. You did the e-visit, but it less answer. Now here comes COVID. Boom, everything stops. Now there's a challenge. I got to take care of these patients. Now we've had Zoom, we have Enterprise Zoom, we have a Salesforce. We discovered that it was very easy to do an API and get Zoom for healthcare, which is HIPAA compliant, and connected. We were already tracking every patient, and actually all the workflows were in Salesforce anyway. So all now that we landed up doing was, within 72 hours, our team was able to get it where, here's the patient, here's the COVID assessment, phone call from the contact center. Have you had these, exposure? Have you traveled? If there was anything, yes. The workflow automatically led to, they got an appointment. Zoom was integrated. Zoom for Healthcare, our e-visit platform, integrated with Salesforce. The provider clicked on it. It was recorded. We went one step further. Actually, the recording is picked up by an AI tool that actually takes that entire conversation and throws it into an EMR, and the record's ready to actually sign and bill it as well. If it wasn't for Salesforce, it'd be impossible to do it, because just the way the platform, the APIs and everything was there, we did this, and we don't have to do any coding. This was click no code. And so we got that done within 72 hours. And I don't think that telehealth is going away anywhere. For years I've been saying this. We talk about enlightened healthcare, and we talk about the spiritual side. And people thought technology, when you use the word holistic, that technology somehow is a bad term. And I said, technology is here to stay. It enhances what we want as humans. Telehealth is the same way. If I'm not feeling well, I'm stuck somewhere, I got example after example. I have a patient who actually comes from Eastern Europe. I follow him from Eastern Europe. I have patients in Florida, I have patients in New York, etc. And we're doing this all routinely via telehealth. In addition to that, I've called prescriptions in Brazil, all on the telehealth platform. Humans want to stay connected, and visual is good. So from that point of view, I don't think virtual is going away any place. The other thing that happened for us is, we have a silver tsunami coming up, which is our population's aging. They're going to be in skilled facilities. Moving them is a hassle. That's one of the social determinant issues. And now we routinely do telehealth. Earlier, if we did a procedure, the next day there was a problem, we didn't know what happened until they showed back up in the office. Now, on a click of a button, telehealth visit, now we see what's going on. We record the conversation, we record the video, record the picture, and everybody has a mobile phone. So I don't think this is going away any place. In fact, it'll only get better with better feedback, gaming technology, etc.
My warmest greetings from Ohio to the audience, and I am thrilled to introduce my friend and CEO of Fenergo, Mark Murphy. Mark, welcome.
Thanks, Greg. It's a pleasure to join you from Dublin in Ireland.
All right. Well, hey, let's not waste any time and jump right in and have you do a quick level set with our viewers, Mark. Maybe just an introduction to Fenergo, who you are and what you do.
Yes, so I'm Mark Murphy. I'm the CEO and founder of Fenergo. I've dedicated the last 11 years of my life helping financial services institutions onboard customers in a safe and compliant fashion. We deal with, the largest banks in the world right across the globe, supporting regulation in 126 countries.
Well, thank you, Mark, for the introduction. And, in the past, when we've had conversations, you've made a couple of comments to me that I have just really loved. They were things like compliance by design and having a regulatory brain. I think we both agree that, regulatory burdens aren't going away anytime soon. So what do you think banks can do to remain compliant while at the same time balance that out with enabling an enhancement of their customers' experiences?
Yeah, look, if you're following the news, you'll see that there is always a chase on to catch the bad actors, to catch the bad guys. The FinCEN notifications, news in the last few weeks, it's still prominent for everybody in the financial services industry to be compliant, but it doesn't have to be a huge burden. It doesn't have to be an inhibitor for innovation. I think that if it's designed correctly, if automation and straight-through processing is brought in, every action by every actor in the process can be compliant by design, can be automated. The risk assessment, the AML screening, all of those aspects of it really can be brought together to deliver a really transformational digital experience for customers.
So I want to pull on, you mentioned innovation, I want to pull on that a little bit because Sunil teed our partnership up as one of co-innovation. Could you speak to that a little bit, please?
Yeah, look, what I'm seeing in the industry is a real demand from the market for Salesforce to be the orchestrator, Salesforce to be the banking hub or launch pad for every client event. So hanging off the back of that, we've been working with banks like PNC in the US, Svenska Handelsbanken in Europe, ANZ in Australia, where Salesforce is a big part of their strategy. If you run the orchestration of those lifecycle events, what you get from that connected and combined with Fenergo is really an end-to-end client lifecycle or client journey management solution. What we're doing together is bringing that so it's available, in the app exchange, available out of the box, so that really, banks who are on Fenergo and on Salesforce can bring that together. But combined for the future for banks who are looking at truly transforming, that end-to-end client journey management, client lifecycle management is really the holy grail as we think about digital transformation of client events.
So let's pick back up with the notion of customer experience and improving that, because, if we look to other sectors for inspiration, Amazon, for example, or, Expedia in the travel industry, we're seeing them create pretty exceptional client experiences. What do you think the banking industry can do to mirror what we've seen in those other sectors?
I think Amazon is a great example of being outcome focused. If you think about what banks are trying to do, they're trying to onboard the customers quickly, efficiently and safely from a regulatory perspective. If you think about how we interact day to day with Amazon, we think about that client journey. If we're ordering a snow shovel or we're ordering a pair of sunglasses, the journey doesn't change that much. There will be some product specific elements that we do, but banking can be like that, whether it's a home loan, whether it's an auto loan, whether it's a corporate account, the experience doesn't have to be different. And I think what Amazon and Expedia have done is really set the bar for where banking needs to be. The technology is there. If you take Salesforce and Finergo combined, you can mirror that spine, that steel thread of every client journey, really executing in an automated fashion. So it's management by exception rather than, really manual, people-intensive processes, which is where we've come from in the banking industry. And I think layered on top of that, this juggernaut that COVID has created in terms of the digital transformation initiatives across the banking and financial services industry, it's a massive opportunity for all of us to change.
And we did some work to think this through because, and I'd like to put that up here actually and talk through it a little bit. And I remember when we were doing this, I kind of had flashbacks to my time as a banker. And at one point I was a treasury management sales officer. And I remember the time was right around when the USA Patriot Act was coming out. And a lot of these back end functions were getting put onto the front end, and it was confusing. And I didn't know what I was supposed to ask for when, let alone the fact that I was working, with 9 small business bankers. And I had, I think, like 4 or 5 mid-market commercial bankers that I was attached to their portfolios as well. And I remember, Mark, that pain of the disconnectedness, just where things were in operations. I knew I was probably asking for stuff that the bankers had already asked for. We didn't really have a great process in place at the time. And it was really unfortunate for me and unfortunate ultimately for my customers. So I remember, Mark, when we started thinking about this and doing some solutioning together, we really found that, when it came to onboarding, a true optimization of that process meant giving consideration to the entire life cycle, not just that little, piece where we think about compliance. So it was really the marriage of, or orchestration, as we like to say, of the customer acquisition process, continuing to build on that with the discovery process, a really solid foundation for understanding the customer, which ultimately feeds them that compliance process. And then obviously the ongoing maintenance of that when there are triggers that require refresh. So with this broader picture into consideration, could you give our viewers some tangible examples of efficiencies or improvements a bank could make to deliver on that vision?
Yeah, look, there's a couple of key aspects to this. The first is data, and data is at the center and heart of this. If this is an existing customer of a bank who wants a new product, that data needs to be served to the customer. If this is a relationship manager interacting with that customer in a branch or on the phone or through any other digital channel, that data needs to be at their fingertips. So at the center of this, at the core, is data, is that client data and the connected party data. If that's somebody banking Greg Blousey's partner, any relationship that Greg has, any product that he has, all of that information needs to be at the center of every life cycle event. Sitting on top of that then is everybody that touches that data, including the customer and the relationship manager, that they are a digital actor. So no matter what event is happening, everybody can see that data, everybody can execute the data and the supporting documents that are required for all of those activities and procedures. Wrap around that then all of the existing processes, all of the existing compliance rules, and think about how do we automate that? How does the data drive that behavior, and how does the rules engine or that regulatory brain tell it what to do and in what context? That could be the onboarding of a particular product for an existing customer in a separate country and was already onboarded for. So what are the rules pertaining to that? That might be a product that's in scope for a different regulation, what happens? Well, the key is that that data has been served into that appropriate channel, onto the Salesforce Sales Cloud, onto Salesforce communities, onto bank.com if they're using it. And every interaction truly brings efficiency, cleanliness of that data, streamlined and automated processes, and ultimately compliance by design.
So my role is really to focus on those strategic partners for the power and utility segment. And what that means is all of those companies that are building solutions specifically for utilities, helping them as they build, as they grow on AWS. And my team, the AWS Power and Utility Segment team, is really focused on this growing opportunity that exists to leverage data and analytics to drive these kinds of better outcomes that we've seen from Rory this morning, to increase the value for the utilities and for their customers. We're really looking at this digital transformation. Means new business models. It means new ways of engaging with consumers, enhancing their grid operations. So we're really looking at how can we leverage the cloud to deliver these kinds of new business models and solutions.
And from your perspective and insight, how do you see third parties integrating for those more comprehensive end-to-end solutions?
Yeah, I mean, this is an awesome part of my job, right? I'm excited to see all of these complementary solutions that are being built for utilities. It's fantastic when we see our partners able to dive deeper into their expertise and build to these new utility requirements and bringing in insights from various solutions and platforms, and including those legacy systems. So as Roy mentioned, right, by building on common data platforms and there's so many different directions that a utility can go for these new products and solutions. So I think having a clear direction and the priorities is kind of the complex part for utilities right now. Is climate change and decarbonization the priority? Is it around demand response and energy efficiency programs through consumer engagement? Maybe it's grid operations, predictive maintenance, vegetation management. Things like this are becoming more of the priority in the immediate roadmap. But more likely, it's all of these and more. And so, creating that flexible, scalable platform from the beginning, kind of future-proofing as you go, I think is the right path.
Yeah, and with all those factors and challenges that energy companies have to deal with in the now and in the coming years, what would be, your advice for other utility companies who are about to go on this digital transformation journey, considering how many of these partners and this crowded ecosystem? What's your advice on how that could be managed?
Yeah, I would say digital transformation is an ongoing process, right? It's something that we've been doing now for 10, 12, even 15 years as the concept of smart meters have become a reality. So, a successful digital transformation requires, always to be looking to future-proof as you go. And Gavin, you mentioned, things like flexibility, agility, obviously security and scalability are all primary factors when future-proofing. So as more and more of these data sources come in, the regulatory requirements change, and obviously consumer-driven expectations are always changing as well. We have unforeseen factors like what we've seen this year. Right, so all of these things have to be considered as you're looking to future-proof your digital transformation. So I know we've gone in my experience in the utility sector for almost 15 years. We've gone from kind of upgrading those legacy systems that utilities have relied on for years to manage grid and customer operations, right? Mostly just billing. But and the upgrade was how do we cope to manage this new increase in just data? To today's challenge is, how do we drive more insights and further the innovation to drive more of that value? So seeing this collaboration that we're seeing in the market now with all of these industry providers, building those modular and open platforms, having a centralized repository to collect and store and build analytics and then share all of that data. In scalable, cost-effective way, I think is the way forward for that digital transformation for utilities.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the huge amount of work we're doing together kind of bringing all of that data together with the customer at the absolute center of it. You're making that experience seamless for them is super exciting for us going forward.
Yes, it is.
So we're bringing, as software vendors, we're bringing a lot of innovation to the industry. What's your view on how else we can bring that innovation to customers and to energy and utility companies?
Yeah. So again, I'm in a lucky position because I get to work with some of these amazing companies that have been serving the utility sector for 20, 50, some even 100 years. And then on the other hand, I'm also watching this kind of startup community develop and evolve with these fresh ideas and fresh solutions that are coming from all different industries. And there's innovation happening across the board, right? And so the challenge now is defining and shaping these new business models. And so, looking at these new value propositions, where you don't have access to data scientists or behavioral scientists. I think it's exciting to see how, the utilities working together with that ecosystem and building up those partnerships is where we're really going to transform, not only a utility, but the entire industry.